Hello, everybody. Welcome to another segment of the Regional Fishing Report. Tonight, we're with Captain Dana, North Carolina Inshore Fishing Report. We're bringing in. Hi,
So,
Captain Dana. How are you?
doing well. How are you guys doing?
Awesome. We got a storm here tonight, so hopefully we'll maintain power, but we're doing awesome.
Gotcha. Yeah, we've had our fair share of those the past few weeks, so you can have ours for a little while. That'll be nice.
Sharing is caring, I guess, right? Yeah.
That's right. That's
Before we get started, just want to congratulate you on your anniversary. This
Thank you.
beautiful photos you have.
Thank you.
And I want to get into what's going on in your region tonight. What is going on? What's happening?
Gotcha. So we're in that mid to late summer pattern, where it's extremely hot during the day. Most of your action's going to be in the morning or in late afternoon. Anytime you get a situation where the water is a little bit cooler, even at night fishing in this time of year is really, really good. Especially there's guys who like to go dock hopping between some of the docks that have lights on them. You can find drum and trout all over the place when you're doing that. Of course, just look for the bait being smashed underneath the lights. It's relatively simple to do that. But then you got to figure out what they want to eat, and that's when the complication kicks in, and what part of the water column they're in. Typically, I would be throwing a dark colored top at that point. That's what I'm going to throw because that's what I want to see anyway.
Yeah.
But of course, you can throw popping corks, you can throw swim baits, you can do all kinds of stuff. Your typical inshore stuff that you're going to throw for those fish. But in the Neuse River Basin and in the Pamlico Sound, Pamlico Tar River Basin, what we're seeing right now is one of the best years I've ever seen for slot drum, for over slot drum, for the old drum, for there's flounder everywhere. They're not in season yet, but they will be in season September 1st through September 30th. So we got a lot of guys gearing up for that. North Carolina's kind of done their part a little bit by trying to help that species along. We've reduced it to 1 trout per person. I know a lot of people have their opinions on that. That's not for me to judge. My job is to follow the rules and keep going. So if you're on my boat and we catch flounder, you want to keep it. As long as it's 1 per person and it's legal length, we're going to keep it. So, but it's almost a National Geographic episode out there right now. We've got shrimp the size of my hand, brown all over the place. We've got menhaden from one end of the river to the other, varies in size from 2-inch up to 6-8 inches. So they're kind of all over the place. And of course, redfish smashing those, flounder taking advantage when they get up on the flats. There's trout, resident trout that are hitting. The ones out in the sound are even more spectacular. They're going to be in a little bit deeper water. Or you're going to have to fish real early in the morning for those. And of course, the Silver King, the one that everybody wants, the tarpon, that's a hidden secret in North Carolina that I don't think gets a lot of attention. And I think a lot of people would rather it be that way. But I think as fishing grows as a sport, that attention's going to come to it more and more. You're going to see people who want to target these animals. And learn how, what do they come up here? What do they do? And why are they here? So, so if I'm from out of town, or even if I'm in this region and I'm fishing, I'm going to target flats. I'm going to target drop offs. I'm going to be looking for signs of bait that is disturbed, especially if they're fluttering on top or even big splashes. That's the number 1 sign. Typically what I'll do is I'll try to keep the bait within casting distance of the boat. I'll follow a school of bait if I have to, if they're getting beat up. So there's some good opportunities there. Always keep a cast net handy for those menhaden or the shrimp. You can keep 100 shrimp per person. That's a lot of shrimp in a day. You can feed yourself for a while on those. And of course, you can use them as live bait, which is better. So there's a lot to do in Eastern North Carolina right now.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's crazy, the size of the shrimp that you have there.
It's unbelievable. So
wow. You have a really healthy fishery right now.
I think it's getting there.
Yeah.
I think for the past 3 or 4 years, it was on the brink. I think it's still in a very volatile period where the wrong type of weather, let's say a freeze or even too hot, as we've seen with the flounder. A lot of people don't understand why the flounder fishery is hurting. You know, a lot of people want to point fingers, and the truth is it's getting warmer in the water. The water temps are on average higher than they've ever been. And the incubation period of a flounder has to be in a certain range. For example, if that range is 62 to 65 degrees, during that time when a hatchling hatches and needs to grow to where it's self-sustainable, that temperature has not been in the ideal range for that fish to keep growing. So even though everyone's seeing these large adults, what you're not seeing are a lot of the small fish. So I did some reading on some studies, and I wanted to educate myself on it and figure out why. So, you know, we always want to know the why.
Yeah.
We don't want to point blame at people. We don't want to say it's commercial, it's recreational, it's this, it's that. It's the human race, and we need to be very careful on how we balance that species and how we take care of that species. So, and with all fish, honestly. So, and keep in mind at the same time, you know, I'm not 100% catch and release. I think that would be, I think that's kind of crazy. Maybe, I don't know, throwing metal in front of a fish and not thinking it's going to hurt the fish at some point, you know that's going to happen. So, and of course, the mortality rate of every living thing on earth is 100%. We're all going to die. Fish are going to die. They're all going to die, but we can do it responsibly. So.
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. It's true. And we really can't control how a fish hooks onto a lure or hook or anything like that. And a lot of times, unfortunately, they get so hurt that they end up bleeding out. And
that's true. That's true. So.
Yeah, that makes sense too. Really quick, before we go any further, for people who are in the audience and who've seen the post on Facebook, we do have a trivia question. We're probably going to do this a little bit more, so I would encourage everyone to pay attention during our fishing reports.
There you go.
Yep. So the question of the evening for the trivia question: what does Captain Dana call a bull drum? And can you specify, just to remind the audience, what a bull drum is?
Okay, so from a cool thing about the redfish is redfish species is everywhere from the Texas Gulf Coast all the way up, you know, up around Maryland.
Yes.
And now they're international, and people, I don't even know if people know this, but there's been some, there's fish in Hong Kong, up around China.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
So the redfish is now there, and they actually see it as a nuisance because it eats a lot of bait fish. So that, you know, but a redfish is a very, very hardy fish. It eats a multitude of things. It'll eat crustaceans. It will eat fish. It will eat its own species if it has to, just like a trout. They will be cannibalistic if they have to. And I don't think they do it on purpose as much as they're probably just doing it out of reaction. So, but that fish it grows exponentially to a point, and then it gets old and bigger over time. So your rat reds or your juveniles, they're going to be below 18 inches in North Carolina. Your slot reds are going to be 18 to 27 inches. Bull reds, your bull reds, depending on what state you're in, here in North Carolina, it's what we call them. Bull reds are going to be from 27 inches up to 40. Now, after 40 inches, or even after 28, they're all catch and release. And those 28 to 40 inches or 27 to 40 inches are all fun to catch. But after you hit that 40-inch mark, that is now what we call an old drum, and that's where you get your citation paperwork. So you live release these 40-inch plus fish. You know, that's a pretty epic moment. That's a very strong, very hostile fight. It can be, you know, it can last for minutes. It can last for an hour, depending on what kind of tackle you have. I've caught them on everything from a medium light trout rod to, you know, a big beefy, I know I did, big beefy bait rod, you know. So I've caught them on everything, but I've always been a trout lover. But I can tell you over the past year, I've really grown to admire this fish and what it does and what it's capable of, and, you know, how skinny of water it can do what it does, and how far up a brackish water river, it can actually move to where it's in pretty much fresh water. So it's very beautiful fish, especially the ones who are feeding on blue crabs. The end of that tail turns really, really blue. When they're here in the river system, they get a really nice gold color on top of them.
Yes.
They're just absolutely beautiful, and they're just bullish in everything they do. When they get hooked, an 18-inch red will make you feel like you've got a 6-pound trout. So, it's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, for sure. I actually just got my citation award almost a year and a quarter after I caught, I think it was about 53, 54 inch. Oh, I don't need to show it. It's
That's
okay.
enormous.
Grant was handing me it's not important.
That's enormous. That's a big, that's a 40-year-old drum. That's big.
Yeah, it was a beast. Well, Grant wasn't there for that, but it took a while to get this one on, and I think one of them, we have the video on TikTok. It was it was a fun ride for sure, unlike anything, except now that I've done deep sea fishing, I know now tuna is a beast to fight for sure. But yeah, bull red, I love them. They're beautiful. To hold one was just an amazing experience, being a new angler for sure. So
and
yeah, we kind of gave away the answer.
Yeah, sorry about that.
It's
Ironically,
okay.
get them on the boat. Once they're on the boat, they're pretty docile.
Yes.
You would think, as large as they are, if they started flopping around really hard, they could do some damage. But they just kind of lay there like, all right, you got me, whatever.
Yeah, that's what I was afraid of when I was holding it on my lap. I thought it was going to take me overboard with it. But really quick, I just wanted to let everybody know that the prize for tonight came from one of our sponsors, BKD. So we have this lovely 1/2 ounce. The jig head actually already comes with it, which is a sweet deal. Silk chartreuse, and you have 2 extras in there and the lovely sticker. So that will be the prize for this evening. Thank you, BKD, for supplying that for us. And like I said earlier, please start paying attention to our fishing report. So we're going to be doing a lot more giveaways. So I want to get into this before we lose time because I watched the video. And I had to ask Grant if I read this right on the caption of your video on your Facebook page. You caught a 100-pound tarpon?
So it's about 6 foot long. We're estimating 100 pounds. It could have been 80, 90, 100. It was big either way. And they range in size. They do frequent our areas in the summer. This year we've seen probably the most we've seen in a while. I know some of the older guys that go target these a lot. They see them quite a bit more than we do. But we were looking for some bull reds, some old drum, whichever we could find. And I ended up on next to this flat, and here in the noose on one side of the river, it's pretty muddy on the north side. And on the south side, you've got more of a sandy bank once you start getting to certain areas. You've got a sand flat that comes out 200-300 yards. It's a long sand flat, and it's right next to 5-6 foot of water. And then it gradually goes down to 10 or 12, 14 feet. And near this sand flat is typically where you'll have all these reds pile up and chase bait up onto the flats where they can get to them a lot quicker. So we went out there, and this is a common area that I fish, and we're looking around, and I thought it was a big gar that rolled at first. And then the more we're looking around, the more we're seeing they're rolling all over the place. I mean, 100 or more of these fish, probably more than that, probably way more than what we saw, Yes. And I just kind of turned it's just curiosity is what did it. I just turned the trolling motor that way and kind of eased out into some deeper water. And we're watching and we're throwing corks and they're not responding. And then finally, they start rolling near the boat. So now they're within a cast, easy cast from us. So I got tired of just popping, and nothing happened. So I held the cork for a while. And Patrick and I, Patrick Whaley, I fished with him a lot. And I noticed if we throw over here, the fish would roll over there. And then we throw over there and the fish rolls over here. And we're like, all right, I'm like, enough of this. I'm just going to wait. So I sat rod in hand. And then when rolled, I estimated where I thought he went. I threw the cork. I popped it. Lure went down softly underneath, and then the cork just kind of disappeared. As soon as the cork went down and it got tension, he shot out of the water.
Yeah.
I mean, beautiful tail walk. The fish was enormous and threw the hook. And I went, crap. But at the same time, you don't expect to catch that on a popping cork.
Right.
So we left that area and went and targeted some fish around a different spot further downriver. Weather was going to be a factor that day. There was thunderstorms all around, not on top of us, but a good distance away.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, hey, let's ease back to that flat. I told him, and it literally was like a year ago that day. I put a friend of mine, Captain Addison Grantham, on his first bull red on a popping cork, first old drum. And same thing, flat, calm, wind picked up, fish started rolling. So we made our way back upriver and went right back to the same spots, in relative same spot. And we're just kind of easing along. I mean, only rolling about 25 miles an hour in the boat. I'm not really flying.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, Patrick goes, there's some right there. So I just shut the motor off. Never took it out of drive, nothing. Just shut the motor off. Took it out. And then finally, as it's coasting down, I took it out of gear. And there they were, again, rolling all over the place. I'm like, this is tearing my nerves up. So I grabbed the rod again, and it's a 7-foot Fenwick medium heavy, a 4,000 Shimano Ultegra with 30-pound braid. I had a Redline Rigs popping cork called a Fenstigator. Okay. And then I had a diesel minnow, a 5-inch sexy penny diesel minnow, chartreuse with gold.
Yeah.
And this time again, I'm waiting. Like, I'm not going to waste my time popping a cork. We're throwing all over the place. And I was like, nope, I'm going to wait. 3 minutes after coming off plane, one rolls off the starboard bow. I cast where I think she's going to be. I pop it. It goes underwater, jumps again. When she hits, she's still hooked. Mm-hmm. And uh-oh. So screams to the right. And the first video on the post, you can hear me. I'm like, she's going right. She's going right. She's going right. So he clears his line and he gets on the trolling motor, and we follow this fish for almost an hour.
Oh my God.
In the meantime, I take my phone, I put it on FaceTime. I told Patrick, FaceTime my wife right now. We put it up on the console, and then she saw it jump. That's where you can hear me screaming like, oh my God, did you see it? You can barely hear her on the background. She's like, I saw it. I'm like, oh my God, dude. So this fish was huge. I think one of two things happened. Either A, we reached a stalemate where I was tired out and she was tired out, or B, she was never really tired in the first place.
Yes.
And took off, which is probably the latter, not the former. Yeah. But after an hour, I really didn't want to hurt the fish. So, I put a little more tension on her. I could get her to come back to the boat. She'd go away, roll, catch air, get a little bit of air in her bladder, go back down. We'd chase her again. And this was 6 or 7 times. And I just went, I need to put some pressure on her. And I'm either going to lose it or she's going to come to the boat, one or the other. So I put pressure on it, and it broke at the knot, which I expected. It's 30 pounds. I expected that to happen. So now, after some conversation with some guys who do it a lot, and I've got a idea of a setup that I'm about to put together this weekend, and then I'm going to go out next Tuesday and see if I can actually get one to the boat. I got to have that picture of my hands on the jaws and holding her up, and, it's a very alpha male thing. I beat you and I won, and the gauntlet's been thrown by the fish now. So.
I think we had a little bit of that on our boat when we were in Florida, and I caught a tarpon in the dark, and it jumped up, rolled, I lost it, and then Grant caught a snook, and it was like, all right, it's on, man, let's do this. But your story is stirring up some questions, one of which you answered. Cape Coral, Jupiter, kayak fishing. You already answered that question on what bait, and if you were using a cork. Tom Keys will be in Avon late September. What, where, target in the Sound, please? Okay, good question.
So I don't fish that area that much. I do have a friend named Mikey Sabitic. If you look him up on Facebook, the dude is an absolute phenom when it comes to their area and fishing. But if I traveled to Avon and I was going to fish on the Sound side, I'm going to look for grass. I'm going to look for deep water next to flats, and I'm going to look for bait. They've got some really long flats out there, so be careful. I don't know what kind of boat, or if you're wade fishing, even better, because there's a long way down there you can wade fish. But I'm going to find those areas where there's sloughs that go underneath the roads. It's little bridges where the sloughs come from the ocean side over to the sound side. There's always going to be carrying bait through there, and that's what I'm going to be looking for.
Okay. Let's see, who else we got? Is that it for now?
That's it.
Okay. A lot of comments are rolling in. One thing I want to tell the audience before we lose time. So Captain Dana runs a charter, reel-to-reel charter and guide service, correct?
Reel-to-reel fishing. Yes, ma'am.
Fishing. Okay. And how does anyone get a hold of you if they would like to schedule an awesome charter with you?
All right. So they can go on Facebook and Reel-to-Reel Fishing, REEL, the number 2, and then REEL. So Reel-to-Reel Fishing, or on Instagram, same thing, Reel-to-Reel Fishing. You guys, all my contact info is on both pages. You can send me a message, send me an email, leave a comment, whatever you'd like. I'm definitely mostly booked through September. But if there's a chance to squeeze 1 or 2 in, I'll do the best I can. October is really what I'm looking at now, booking into October for trout. And, me, I'm ready to get back on my trout. So, but I don't want to just fly through old drum season. I really enjoy old drum season because this time of year, it's old drum or bust. That's what we're doing. It kind of makes my job harder and easier at the same time. Harder because you got to get these trophy fish to the boat, but easier because you know what you're doing every time you go. So, and I thoroughly enjoy it. I thoroughly enjoy catching these large fish and showing people just what a brute strength these fish have, at the same time while showing them, hey, this is how we respect the fishery and this is why. So,
it's true. It really speaks to the beauty and how magnificent the fish and just the experience of being on the water truly is. It's just not hooking a fish. Right? It's the experience that you described, and you describe every time you're on the show.
Absolutely.
And definitely book a charter with Captain Dana. Obviously extremely knowledgeable, great gentleman to be on a boat with, and I'd like to get on some tarpon too, so we may schedule something.
I'll tell you what, if you want to do that, it'll be next year because I'm going to spend a couple of days figuring it out. And then next summer, I'm going to spend some time really figuring it out. So I'm probably 2 years from maybe 3 from running tarpon trips because I'm not going to take people out and do something I don't know how to do. But if I can get this dialed in, I'm adding that to the repertoire because that is a lot of fun.
That is so exciting. Are you still doing your podcast?
We are. We did one recently, and you can get it on Apple or Spotify. Reel-to-Reel Fishing. We talked with a local guy, Randall Nelson. He has a Instagram and a little thing going on called Fish Burn, and it's all about fishing in New Bern only. So great dude. Love him to death. He's affiliated with Z-Man, some of those other guys. But we'll be doing a new episode that'll be recorded here within the next 2 weeks, and that'll be released. And that's going to be all about late summer fishing, trout, drum, flounder. We'll tell heartbreak stories of catching tarpon and not catching tarpon and chasing tarpon. And it's truly been, there's one of us in the group that's out actively chasing him and he hasn't hooked it yet. And then I go out and pop 2 in a day and it's tearing his nerves up and tearing mine up too. So I want to do it again.
That's the drug, right? Want to do it again.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. So, I listen to your podcast, very educational, very entertaining. So I recommend everybody tune into that on Instagram, on Facebook. Definitely follow Captain Dana. Do we have any other questions?
Eloy missed the answer to his question.
Okay, our friend Eloy. I missed it. Sorry. What bait was he using for the tarpon?
So I've got friends that go down to Florida a lot, and they go down, they target tarpon and snook, and they came back up and said, look, if you're around these fish, what you're fishing for old drum is going to work. So we throw a lot of large baits. The 5-inch diesel minnow, it's pretty large, but from what conversations now I've had, they're like, no, you need to go to like a 7-inch, like a huge swim bait. So, but that was a 5-inch Z-Man diesel minnow in Sexy Penny, which is chartreuse and gold. It was on a 1/4 ounce jig head, 60-pound mono underneath a big popping cork. And the first one hit a 4 Horsemen popping cork and bent the crap out of it. She tore that to pieces. But I don't expect a 4 Horsemen cork to hold on to a 100-pound fish. I don't. So, but again, large swim baits are what you're going to target these fish with around here. Of course, they throw mullet, underneath on a big Carolina rig, stuff like that. But artificial big swim baits.
Okay, awesome.
From what I've seen, like I said, I'm no expert, so this is just what I've seen. I want everybody to know I do not know anything about tarpon fishing other than getting lucky. So
right, yeah, that's the thing though. When I learned about fishing, you think you know what lure to use, what jig, and you try something different, or someone suggests something, and like, wow, that works. So you are definitely knowledgeable enough to figure this out. I have no doubt. But it helps to have an idea sometimes.
oh yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm getting the 2-minute.
You're
so
good.
Anyway, thank you so much, Captain Dana, for your time, your knowledge, your experience. I love this story. Definitely recommend everyone tune into his Instagram, Facebook to watch this video.
Yeah, it's entertaining to say the least.
It is. I got really excited about it. It was really entertaining. So tune in next week for our next set of regional fishing reports. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a good night, everybody. Fish on.
Young, just hang around. Too proud to be your